Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon, and I am back with another pickups video. I've got some good stuff here. I asked on Twitter recently to get your opinions on how many games makes up the ideal pickups video. And although a lot of people said it can be as many or as few as you want, and I tend to agree with that, the majority did say 5 to 7, 5 to 8, something like that. And I think we fall pretty closely into that category. It might be, what do I have? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, we've got 9. We've got 9 games. That's not too bad. So this is nothing like it used to be, obviously, when I would walk in here with a mountain of games up to the ceiling, because, you know, I've grown. Personal development, right? It's important. Someone did ask me recently why I haven't been on the treadmill doing this lately, and that's because I'm lazy. All right, without any of that ado that I tend to do, let's just get into it. Why don't we just get into it? All right. So I've broken this down by category. I don't feel like you need to do this. I've just decided to. Aesthetically, it was pleasing to me. So we're gonna start with the Switch games that I picked up in the past couple of months, shall we? First up, Another Code, Recollection. Hey, it's me, Ashley Robbins. Ashley Mizuki Robbins. This is a compilation of 2, I believe, Nintendo DS titles. Possibly one of which that we never saw. Did we get both of them? No, including one previously unreleased in North America. So yeah, this is a sort of an adventure game sort of deal where you are trying to solve mysteries, and you're controlling the main character here, Ashley Mizuki Robbins. She has to search Blood Edward Island for the truth. I'm sorry, I'm not a cartographer, so maybe this is more common than I think it is, but would you really name your island Blood Edward Island? That's, I don't know, that just seems like you're asking for a serial killer or something. Like, come on. Or maybe they're thinking the opposite. Maybe they're using reverse psychology, where if like we named our town, you know, Awful Death Trap, Illinois, or something like that, then killers are gonna be like, that's too on the nose. We don't want to mess around with that. We're gonna go to Plainsville, Indiana. You know what I mean? Like something like that. I don't know. Anyway, these are 2 adventure games. I remember seeing the one that we got in the US on the DS and thinking that looks interesting. Why does that girl have white hair? She seems young. Too young to have white hair. And I don't know, it was always intriguing to me, and I never picked it up, and I actually had it on my list of games that I wanted to put in the collection so that I could get to it one of these days. And then Nintendo went and remade them and put them on the Switch, so hey, even better. The other Switch game I got, only 2 Switch games for a change, which is very strange. Oh my gosh. Only 2 Switch games for a change, which is very strange. I'm sorry, that's terrible. I didn't even mean to do that. It just comes out of me. Oh. The other Switch game is Persona 5 Tactica, right? Persona 5 Tactica. I'm a big Persona fan. Obviously, I love Persona 5. Everybody loves Persona 5. That doesn't make me special, you know? Persona 5 is great. Love the characters. I'll admit, I hesitated on picking this one up initially. That's why I waited till it was on sale. I don't know, something about the graphical style I'm not as crazy about. I would prefer, and maybe I know it's silly, but I would just prefer that they would pick an art style for the Persona games and just stick with it. Just go with that. Just go with it. They did the same kind of thing in the 3DS games, the Persona Q series. They like super chibi-ify the characters, and they're cute. Like, sure, yeah, I mean, they're chibi. Like, it's hard to not be cute when you design your characters in those proportions. So like, good job, I guess it's cute or whatever, but I don't know, I don't know. I would prefer a consistency in the design. Is that nitpick? Anyway, this doesn't even matter, because like, my point is I was hesitant to pick it up. It wasn't just because of the art style. It was also just because I think I reached a point of Persona 5 saturation. Maybe some of you feel this way. Let me know if you did. You know, I love Persona 5. I love Persona 5 Royal. I love Persona 5 Strikers. I was heavily immersed in the world of Persona 5 for several years, and I feel like I got my fill of it, and I was ready to move on, you know? Atlas has never met a cow that it hasn't thoroughly milked, so naturally we've got a whole bunch of secondary side Persona 5 games, and that's fine. And I still think that this is going to be good. and I'm still gonna play it because it is Persona 5 and I do love it. I'm kind of in the middle of a break. I'm on a break with Persona 5 right now. Those are the Switch games. I have, let's see here. I've got one PS4 game and three PS5 games, if you can believe it. That's the first time I've ever, I think, ever had more PS5 games than Switch games in one of these videos. So does that mean the end of Nintendo as we know it? I don't know, that just means that's how it fell this time. Got some more PS5 games, it's cool. Anyway, but PS4 first, and this one is Utawa de Umono, Prelude to the Fallen. I mentioned, I think in my previous pickups video where I talked about the other Utawa de Umono game I picked up, which I think is Mask of Truth? Mask of Truth? I think that's the third one. This is the first one, and then I still need the second one. That one, I don't know, hard to find, impossible, expensive. We'll get it one of these days. But anyway, I'd mentioned, I think, that there was a video over on Milla's Game Room talking about the Utawa de Umono series. I gotta stop saying the name. It is very long. It's a little bit hard to say. But this series, she did a video talking about the series in its entirety and all the side games and everything that really got me interested in it. So I'm picking them up in anticipation of having them and playing through them in one of my marathon sessions. Because when I play a series, like if I have a series that I've never played and I've got a bunch of the games together, I like to marathon my way through them in release order because I feel like that gives me a good taste of what the designers were going for, and I can kind of see the evolution of the story and the gameplay and all of these things over the course of the series, which you don't really get if you are playing them kind of out of order, which is fine. There's no wrong way to play games. I'm not trying to suggest that. You play games how you want to play games. I fully support that, but the way I like to do it is I like to see that evolution of the game design over the course of a series. Because I tend to find that if I play a later game first, and then I want to go back and play the earlier games, there are gameplay innovations that I got used to in the later games that just aren't present in the earlier games because they hadn't thought of them yet, right? They hadn't gotten the feedback from the fans saying, hey, this is great, but maybe you could do X, Y, or Z. See? So all that to say, I'm going to play these games. I suspect that I will like them. It's a sort of visual novel mixed with a strategy game, which is actually, I don't know, it seems to be more common than I would have thought. I believe also the Digimon Survive game is similar, visual novel with some tactical strategy combat. I wouldn't have put those two things together myself, but I guess it's a thing. So we're gonna get used to it, I guess. Yeah, this is the Origins edition. It has a soft cover art book, you know, weak sauce, whatever, and a Hymns for the Fallen soundtrack, which I'm guessing probably has like 3 songs on it. Whatever, it's free, you know, it didn't cost any more. So yeah, Utawa de Umono, Prelude to the Fallen. Okay, now the PS5 games. We've got 3 PS5 games, believe it or not. First up is Eternights. Now, I did a review of this game on my channel. I had received the code digitally from the publisher, and I reviewed it, and my intention was always to pick it up because I really enjoyed it. I also did, as part of a collaboration on David Vincent's channel a couple of months ago, I want to say, was it end of last year, beginning of this year, or something like that, was part of a collaboration where we were talking about hidden gems, and turns out he hated this game. He hated it with a passion. So that was a little bit awkward, but he was real nice and, you know, still let me participate. I felt it was embarrassing. It was like, it's like if you get invited over to someone's house for dinner, you know, and you're supposed to bring a dish to share, and everybody's bringing their dishes and it's going to be a great time, and you show up with your dish and the host is like, ugh, you know, and you feel kind of like, oh shoot, I blew it. But no, anyway, it was a great collab. I'm gonna link it down in the description. If by some chance you haven't seen it already, go check it out. But yeah, Eternights is, it's a very divisive game, which when I was playing it, I would not have believed that that would be the case. I figured it would be pretty universally liked. But having read people's complaints about it, I do kind of understand where people are coming from. It's not gonna be for everyone, based on what I've read. And it's very difficult, challenging, let's say challenging, very challenging to learn the systems in this game. Once you get the rhythm of it down, and believe me, I probably would have given up on this game if I hadn't received the code and felt an obligation to push through and review it properly, because I was dying so much at the beginning of the game. I just could not get it, because I've played a lot of action games. I've played a lot of action RPGs, and I feel like a lot of them play the same. This one looks like it should play the same, but there's something different to the rhythm of the combat in this game. So if you go into it with the expectation that it's going to play like basically every other anime-inspired action role-playing game, you're probably going to get frustrated and you're probably going to drop it. So I would say if you are willing to invest a little bit of time to learn the rhythm of this combat, you'll probably end up enjoying it as much as I did. At least I hope you do, because the story and the characters and just the vibes and the mood of this game are so interesting and compelling. And the fact that for the most part this was made by one person is mind-boggling to me. That we could, that anybody, even if this is an exceptional human being that did most of this work, the fact that even just one exceptional human being could do so much of this on their own is just, it makes me excited to see not only what this person does in the future, but just what other creators are going to do, right? Obviously we've got Toby Fox, we've got Concerned Ape, I forget his real name, from Stardew Valley. So we've had developers kind of working in the like pixel-based JRPG space, but to see something of this complexity from one person basically is just crazy. It's not the longest game. You'll probably finish it once you get up to speed on the combat, 8 to 10 hours maybe. So it's, you know, more bite-sized. And again, that, I mean, makes sense, right? We're talking about the work of a single person. Probably would have been working on this for 12 years if they were gonna make it a 40-hour game. This is fine, it's the right length. Anyway, all that to say, highly recommend it if you can stomach the combat. It is very, very worth your time. Next up, of course, Persona 3 Reload, right? Gotta get the reload. Naturally, you know, I picked up the collector's box that came with the statue of, I guess, you know, I don't know. I didn't read the scale, I guess, when I ordered it. It was really expensive. This collector's edition was super expensive. I want to say it was like $250, which, you know, in a world where NIS America is putting out $99 collector's editions of the Trails series, which I obviously love so much, this $250 price tag for this collector's edition felt, I don't want to use the word exorbitant, but close to that. And I think the justification was, hey, there's a statue included in the game, and it's fine. Like, it's okay, but it's a good deal smaller than I would have thought, and it's like action figure quality. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. And I don't regret having it. I'm the guy that's going to collect all the Persona collector's editions regardless of what's in them. So the fact that there's a statue, something I can display, is cool, right? But it's not cool to me on the level of the Persona 5 Royal, which had the Joker mask in it. Like, that's super cool. I love that stuff. Persona 3 Reload, I don't know if I need to say anything else about Persona 3 Reload. It's a remake of one of the best JRPGs of all time, and the game that really started the Persona series on the path that it is now. So yeah, I mean, if you haven't played it by some chance, yeah, pick it up. And if you're a Persona fan already, especially, and you've never played it, you gotta get into it. Finally, on the PS5, I have The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I'm sorry. I'm one of those guys that will buy the games in this series as many times as Naughty Dog wants to put them out, okay? They could decrease the texture quality and put out a demastered version of The Last of Us games. I'm buying them. I'm buying them. I love The Last of Us so much. It's just so compelling to me. Haters out there are gonna hate, say that it's not great or that they're wasting their time remastering the same 2 games 15 times. I think it's fine. I think if they want to do it, there's money to be made there for them. They can do it. It's fine. I also think when people complain about, you know, Naughty Dog or whoever remastering or remaking like The Last of Us Part 1, you gotta keep in mind, they didn't have a team of 300 people on this remaster, right? This is a dozen, 2 dozen people that they put on this, and maybe they even outsourced it. I don't know, I haven't dug into who did what. But they're not putting the full A-team on the remaster of the old game. Like, this is just stuff, and it's just not I don't think it's a bad thing, right? Like, it's keeping people in work in a time when the industry is so chaotic and people are losing their jobs left and right. It's like, if putting out a few remasters every now and then means that people at these companies get to keep their jobs, like, that's fine. You know, you don't have to buy it, absolutely. If you object to the idea of a remaster for whatever reason, you don't have to, totally, don't, it's not for you probably. But like I said, The Last of Us is just, it's the chef's kiss of games to me. And I love it, and I'm happy to have it. Even though I had The Last of Us Part 2, I could have gotten the $10 digital upgrade. I had to have the matching PS5 so I can have it on the shelf, right? And I'm assuming that the Part 3 that they're inevitably going to do is probably going to be a PS5 game near the end of its life, if history repeats itself. So, near the end of the PS5's life, we'll have The Last of Us Part 3, and I'll have the whole trilogy nice in the white PS5 box label there, and I will be very happy. I'll be a very happy boy. Okay, now we got 3 more games here, and they are sort of a weird mishmash miscellany of different consoles. So, first up, we have a GameCube game, and it's not a JRPG. I guess The Last of Us Part 2 isn't either, but maybe it's surprising that I have 2 non-JRPGs here. But we have Star Fox Assault. Star Fox Assault is, I think, the second Star Fox game that came out on the GameCube, assuming that you count Star Fox Adventures as a Star Fox game. I do. I mean, it has Star Fox in it, so it's a Star Fox game. And this is more along the lines of the traditional Star Fox games. It's more of a shooter, space shooter kind of deal. I never played this one. It's the only Star Fox game that I've never played, right? I think so. Yeah, that's the only one I've never played. I didn't play the 3DS remake of 64, but that's just 64, which I played for 8 million hours as a teenager. So this is the only one I haven't played. And I've always been curious. I don't even know what I've heard about it. I want to say that I've heard decent things, but maybe I'm imagining that. I'm hallucinating the good reviews because I want it to be good. But, I found it at a local, it's actually like a local hobby shop. It wasn't even specifically a game store, but they had a small selection of games, and Star Fox Assault was one of them. And I've looked, like, I've not super intently been looking for it, but I've always kept my eye open. And if I had seen it anywhere, I probably would have grabbed it because I was interested in it. This is the first time I've seen it ever in a store. So I had to grab it. It wasn't too bad. I want to say it was like $50. I don't know what it's worth. It's probably worth around that. It's not like I got a screaming deal on it, but I'm willing to pay $50 for a game that I'm interested in playing. So I'm happy to have that in the collection. My GameCube collection is now 8 games big. I sold a few recently, you may remember. If you have been a long-time follower of the channel, I had some bangers, had some banger GameCube games that I sold to fund my, actually, I don't know if I ever said what I bought with those games that I sold. I bought a Steam Deck, the Steam Deck, not the OLED. I waited till the OLED came out, and then I got a reduced rate on the top-end Steam Deck of the previous generation. So yeah, and I love the Steam Deck, so I feel like it was a good trade. Plus I sold Baten Kaitos 1 and 2, and I got the Switch remaster. Anyway, we're talking about these games. We're not talking about those games. Those games are gone. Okay, next up we have a Wii title, and I've been curious about this one for a long time. I think it was also on PS2, I want to say. And there is a modern release in this series, and this was the first part of the series that we ever got in North America, I'm pretty sure. And that is Sakura Wars So Long, My Love. So yeah, this is like a, oh, just fell out of here. Price sticker, a receipt. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is sort of a, I don't know, dating sim tactical RPG set in New York City in like an alternate reality World War II or something. I don't know. It's always looked pretty interesting to me. I picked up the PS4 Sakura Wars. I haven't played it yet. I'm pretty sure, is it Femtrooper? Paige, let me know if I'm wrong about this. I'm pretty sure Femtrooper has sung the praises of Sakura Wars. So I'm very interested to check it out, but I figured, like I do, I would want to play the original first so I could see how it's evolved. So I picked this up. This was not cheap. This was Brandon treats himself. I had to go on a work trip, and it was a long drive. And while I was out there, there was a used game store in the area, and I was like, treat yourself, you know? So looked through their selection. They actually had a pretty decent selection. There's probably a handful of games there that I could have chosen. But this is the one I picked, and I don't regret it, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. Last but not least, we have a Sega Saturn game. You heard that right. Saturn. Sega Saturn game. And this is one that was actually not the highest on my list for a long time. It was one that I definitely did have on my list because it fits the criteria for the sorts of games I like. It's a kind of a dungeon crawler JRPG sort of deal in a series that I'm fond of. But it was not the highest on my list. There was another game in the series on the Saturn that was actually higher for a long time. However, I recently finished reading through the giant JRPG or Guide to Japanese Role-Playing Games book that I've talked about on this channel before. And they really sung its praises in that book. Whoever reviewed this game for that book really liked it and really did a good job of selling me on it. So I went ahead and picked up Shining the Holy Ark. Speaking of shining, all this reflection here. Woo-hoo. You're never going to get a good shot of this cover. There we go. Shining the Holy Ark. Look at that. There it is. So yeah, the other Shining game on the Saturn is the Shining Wisdom. And that was produced in America by Working Designs. I'm a big Working Designs fan. I understand they're controversial because they took liberties with the translation of the games that they worked on. Hey friends, it's Brandon from the future jumping in here. You can tell I'm from the future because I'm wearing these cool future goggles. We all wear them in the future, you'll get used to them. Just wanted to let you know I'm about to go on a rant here about localization for the next God knows how long. It's a long rant. And I am very pro localization. Like, I'm in favor of, you know, a liberal localization over a literal translation. So if you are not in the mood to hear somebody talk about how great they think localizers are, and you are, you know, just the very idea of that just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up and your fingers curl into claws and you just want to start typing an angry response, I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you can bail out now if you want. The video's basically over anyway, so feel free to take off if you need to, you know, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Anyway, back to the rant. In a way, so I'm a very liberally minded localization fan, because to me, localization, I'm going off on a tangent again, I'm sorry, but I gotta say it. To me, localization is about trying to give an audience that doesn't natively speak the language of the media in question an experience that as closely as possible mirrors the experience had by the original audience. So that's why I have a problem with like subtitled translations and things that tend to be more literal, and fan subs and things like that are super strictly literally minded, because the idea to me that a person viewing something in Japanese in their native language, the idea that it was that stilted and awkward sounding to them in their native language, I feel like that's insulting to the writers, like the original writers, to think that that's how their work sounds to the people they're writing for. It doesn't, I almost guarantee it. Now, there's not to say there's not bad writers in Japan. I'm sure there are bad writers. There's bad writers everywhere. But localization is about making the experience that I have as an English-speaking player as closely as possible mirror the experience that the Japanese player had. So if there are references and jokes that just don't land with an English-speaking audience, a Western, you know, US, Canada, whatever, Western Hemisphere audience, those need to be changed so that we have the same or as close to the same experience as possible as the original audience did. And that's why I'm 100% fine with them changing things, making tweaks that make sense culturally. Like, I hesitate to use any concrete examples because I don't want things thrown in my face, but because I know this is like a hot button issue right now, or always. But, you know, if a character says something that literally translated would come across in English as like a deeply upsetting insult, but in Japan would not be that, but the literal translation would be this deeply insulting word or phrase or whatever in English. That word or phrase needs to be changed in English unless the goal of the scene was to make that character unlikable, right? And I don't think that would be the case, because if it's not that offensive in Japanese, then it shouldn't be that offensive in English. So I don't know. I could go on about localization versus transliteration. I say transliteration. I know that's not literally what transliteration means, but when I use transliteration in this context, it's literally just word for word translating something from Japanese into English and calling that ideal somehow. It's like, I don't want to have that subpar experience. Now, listen, those of you who are angry at me for having said all that, I get it. I understand. It's a very, I don't know, people feel this issue in their bones, right? Like, I also feel it in my bones when I read people getting upset at localizers. I get angry on behalf of the localizers, because I'm like, leave these guys alone. They're just doing their jobs. But you know, so I get why you might be upset by this, but I just keep in mind, I would not take what you like away from you ever. Like, you know, that's why anime has the subtitle option for folks that, you know, maybe they grew up watching fan translation, like fan subs or whatever. And so they've gotten used to anime sounding like that in their heads, and that's comforting to them, or you think that's great. And I want you to enjoy yourself and have fun. But I'm just glad that there are companies, most companies are like, you know, think about it the way I do, which is to say that they want me to have the same experience that the Japanese fans got to have. What were we talking about? Oh, right, we were talking about Shining the Holy Ark. So localization is not really a relevant issue to this. I don't know anything about the localization of this one. Right, we were talking about working designs, because Shining Wisdom was translated by Working Designs. Shining the Holy Ark was not. I don't know if Sega just did this themselves. Looks like maybe they did. Yeah, but this is I think it's a first-person dungeon crawler, and I've heard good things about the story. So, and this was another one. This was like Brandon gets a big treat because Saturn games, especially role-playing games, are not the cheapest. But this one actually worked out. I somehow got 2 payments from some class action lawsuit thing for, I don't even remember what it was for. But essentially the 2 checks that I got in the mail for this class action lawsuit that I didn't even remember signing up for basically paid for this game. So I was like, there you go. Class action lawsuit, Shining the Holy Ark. Everybody's happy. Except I guess probably the company that got sued, but you know. Anyway, those are my pickups for the month, or 2 months, or however long it's going to be until I do another one of these. I hope you enjoyed hearing me ramble. I'm sorry about the rambling. This is going to be a super long video, and there was only 9 games. So if you stuck around to the end, you're one of the real ones, and I appreciate you so much. I hope that you will consider liking and subscribing and doing all that stuff. And until next time, bye.